Hello everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Sachin Philip and I'm your digital admissions coach. Today I have here with me Ganesh Nair. He is a graduate from Swedish University. I can't pronounce this, so I'm going to let him pronounce it. And he has a master's degree in aeronautical engineering. Okay, so Ganesh and I were friends back in undergrad. We both graduated from Amrita School of Engineering, and we were pretty close. So I was really happy that he agreed to do this interview because Sweden is someplace that I know that a lot of you guys want to go, but you may not find all the information available on the internet. So that's why I figured that someone who's actually gone there, applied, graduated, will be able to help you out further. So hi Ganesh, welcome to the channel.
Hey, hi Sachin. It's been a while.
Yes.
So I'm Ganesh. I studied here at Linköping University in Linköping. Did my Master of Science in Aeronautical Engineering, and now I'm trying to find work since I got my degree certificate last December. So, yeah.
Awesome. So how about we just start with the basics? What was your profile like when you applied to college?
Okay, to be honest, my profile was not great. Because I joined right after college and we didn't really do much research work in college. So there were no papers to my name or anything. But so my GPA was around 8.31 out of 10. So a GRE score, I did not have to give one because Sweden does not require a GRE score. Most European colleges don't require one. I had got a score of about 7.58 on my IELTS, which I think is okay. I had maybe a couple of internships, one of which was at a shipyard in Cochin, where I learned basics of marine engineering and things like that. So that was a good experience. And the second one was a project intern at DMRL in Hyderabad, which is part of DRDO, where I did mechanical testing of high nitrogen steels and things for them. And then other things that they would have looked at would have been me being in Ingenium and co-chairing Ingenium, which was the mechanical club or the mechanical chapter in our college. These things probably proved as a plus in my application for my course here. So yeah.
All right, great. So so then you applied and you got in, and first of all, again, congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, what made you choose Sweden? What made you choose the university? What made you choose the specialization? What was your journey?
Yeah, so when I was looking at what colleges I want to go to and what countries, the US, yes, was very interesting to me. Like there are many really good colleges like Arizona and like Georgia Tech and like UPenn and things that have really good courses for aerospace engineering. But the political environment in 2016, 2017, 2018, I was not sure where it was going and how it would be to find a job in the country. So I did not apply. I opted out of it and looked at other countries like the UK and Sweden in my case. So I applied to about 10 or 12 universities, many in the UK and the four available like possible options in Sweden. So I applied to everywhere, like a lot of places, and I got acceptance from most places. I actually got acceptance from almost all of my dream universities except Imperial College London and TUM Asia. When I looked at the different countries and after getting all the acceptances from the UK colleges that I wanted also, I didn't go to the UK even though their courses are really good. Why? Because, well, they have 1 year courses. So the 1 year courses, like, I don't mind doing the work in the 1 year. That was not ever a concern for me. My main concern with the 1 year course was the adjustment period. Us from India are going in, especially from engineering perspective, is mostly book knowledge. So the adjustment period going into these international universities where research is the main thing is very difficult because we have to make our own decisions about things and we have to apply the knowledge that we've learned into things. So Sweden seemed more appropriate for me because of the 2 year course, and many of the universities here are really well known and like very reputable colleges. So when I applied to okay, now let me give you a small gist of how the Common App process is in Sweden. So you look at all the colleges, you look at all the courses you want to do, and you choose 4. You don't choose 4 universities, you choose 4 courses. You can have same courses from this like same university, but you cannot have like many different universities that you're applying to in Sweden. You can choose only 4 courses. So make your decision very carefully and put them in the priority order. They have given you like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's not just numbers, that's your priority order of what course you want. So what happens is when your decision comes, you get your acceptance in order of priority. If you get your first preference, your second, third, fourth preference is automatically deleted and your application from that university is auto deleted. So if you don't get your first, then your second is, if you get your second, then your first is, it comes up as rejected and the second one is admitted, third and fourth deleted again. So that's what happens. And so you want to make sure your priority list is in proper order. So choose your courses very carefully. And because this also applies, I believe, in scholarship aspect as well, because from what I've heard and from what I had, I don't have a scholarship because Linköping University was my second choice. My first choice was the aerospace program in KTH. My third choice was the mechanical program in KTH, and my fourth choice was the automotive program in Chalmers. So the Chalmers and the mechanical KTH got auto deleted for me. I got accepted into LIU, and KTH put me on a waitlist for their aerospace program.
So once you actually got into the university and started studying, what was the experience like? Like, what is it like to study at Sweden? What is it like to study at LIU? And how is it different, from your bachelor's degree study?
It's mostly assignment based. Like most courses, like here in Sweden, we do not have a GPA system. Like we don't have common cumulative GPA. At least in my university, we don't. Like every subject either is graded based on pass fail, or there's a 4-point grading system with fail 3, 4, 5, with 5 being the highest and fail being fail. But so that's how it's graded here, and not all subjects have that 3, 4, 5. Very few subjects have that 3, 4, 5. So there's no cumulative GPA, or there's no cumulative grade, because not all courses have grades. Some of them you just pass or you fail. So everything and every single course is assignment based, and some of them just have exams added on top of them at the end. And so you get to interact with a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures, and you understand how people are, how people, how they like their food, how you like their food. You get to interact with a lot of people. And in Sweden, usually social interactions are limited. So because people are usually reserved in Sweden, like Swedish people in general are quite reserved, and most of their social interaction happens on weekends when they go drinking or other times. So if you don't drink, it's a little difficult to make friends. I would say you can make friends in class maybe, but outside class it's a little difficult. You can make a lot of opportunities, of course, because our university has, I think, about 50 to 60 clubs or something. So you can just join one of them and you can make friends there very easily. So it's a lot of opportunities, but you have to make sure you take them. It's about that. And for me, that was going to play football was my main social interaction and making friends opportunity, since I don't drink or go clubbing. So that's how I made my Swedish friends. They're like I said, they're more on the reserve side of things, I would say, to such a degree that it's quite difficult to make friends unless you know them personally from class or otherwise. And it's also very important because most of the coursework is group based. Almost none of it is individual. So you want to find group members who you can work well together, and you don't want to find that random person that you find halfway through the project that you absolutely hate working with. You want to you want to try and find someone who you work well with. Have that rapport in the beginning. It helps move the project smoothly.
That's awesome. So I know you just gave us some tips, but how about specifically application tips? Do you have any tips for people who are looking to apply in terms of just scholarships and getting in, building their profile, all that kind of stuff?
Right. So when it comes to other universities like England or the US or Canada, most places they need something called an SOP. But in Sweden, they don't really need that. They don't really ask for an SOP. But when you're applying for scholarship, they generally ask for something about yourself or why you deserve the scholarship or something of that nature, which generally tends to be your SOP in a sense, but it's in a very, how do you put it, like in a very concise paragraph. So the scholarship process in Sweden is a little different, like I mentioned. It's in your priority order. Like your scholarship application process is offered to you if your university is the first priority. For example, I applied to KTH as first priority and Linköping as the second priority. So I got a scholarship application opportunity for KTH, but not Linköping. So I didn't get an opportunity to even apply for scholarship here. And got to apply for scholarship at KTH, but didn't get into it. So,
Okay.
so like that's why I mentioned choose your courses very carefully. Cost of living wise, you may is the main reason people want scholarships, right? So in Stockholm, for example, you have like I'll tell you the prices in crowns. I think it's gonna convert. So it's like around 6,000 crowns for rent is what costs in Stockholm, which is about $700 or something. But for me in Linköping, it costs half that. It's around 3,000 crowns for me for my rent. So for me, 6,000 crowns is what I spend monthly almost, and I don't even spend that much, but that's how much I usually keep as a budget. And for my friends in Stockholm, it's around 6,000 crowns just for rent, just for the living, like for accommodation. So going to the store is an extra maybe 2,000 crowns on top of that.
Okay, so then if those are like your admission tips, we also have like some questions that we have from the audience. Okay, I'm just gonna read a few of those out now. How much Swedish do you actually need to know to survive, or like not to survive, but also like for jobs and stuff? So how much?
Right. From survival perspective, you don't really need it much. Like not counting England, like after the US, India, Sweden is the third or like maybe second or third largest English-speaking country in the world. But I wish it was more of a problem. To be honest, like it would force me to learn the language at least. But so from a job perspective, it is more advantageous because you are going to be interacting with a lot of people who may not know English, for example. So it is advantageous, but it's not necessary in many cases. Swedish can be like you can take Swedish classes in the university, which is what I did, or you can take Swedish classes that are offered by the government for free, which is held at their public schools. Back when COVID wasn't a thing.
Awesome. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much, Ganesh, for joining us.
Yeah.
And thanks so much, guys, for watching. I'm going to be putting out more interviews, like these. Comment down below what kind of what kind of interviewee you want me to interview, what kind of things you want to learn, and I'll try to make sure I get that to you guys. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care. Bye bye.
Yeah. All right.